Hey all, in today's video we're going to go over how we can create a predictive site survey for those of you who are looking to get a heat map or to get a predictive report on best placement for APs. A lot of companies hire myself as a consultant to perform a lot of these heat maps, so when they go for deployment they actually have somewhat of a visual representation of how the AP placement will work, depending on the density factors that we set on this plan. So in today's video, I'm just going to go over everything that I do when I work with my customers in terms of getting this project up and ready for them prior to deploying some APs. But we always do recommend that doing an actual site survey is best recommended. Or if you're not doing an actual site survey, at least get a wireless, I guess, signal analyzer or a spectrum analysis on the survey itself or on the environment, just to kind of get an overall glimpse of, you know, before deploying 2.4 or 5, is there any noise in the air that'll kind of disrupt these signals that we're running on these specific channels. So let's get started in the video. And right now we're using AirMagnet Survey Professional to do this predictive site survey. So over here, when we go to start a new project, we'll go over here, new project. We'll do a Cisco Prime Planner project. We'll give it a name, Survey Planner. We'll import the floor plan or the map. Don't worry about calibrating right now. I just leave everything in feet. The floor plan dimensions, I leave it as 0 and 0, and I'll show you why in the next slide here or next video. So over here we go to commercial warehouse, signal propagation, leave it as default. AP power, we can set this up later per AP. And I'll just go to next and we'll just go to warehouse. So it's going to ask us if we want to calibrate the dimensions of this, and we'll say yes. So when I'm working with one of my customers, I'll just ask him, you know, what's the distance between the end of this aisle and this aisle? Or if they could give me a schematic that has the legends on it, that's really helpful. So for now, I'll just ask, you know, a plant manager or warehouse manager just to give me the rough estimate of the distance between these 2 points, and let's say they said it was 9 feet. I'll put in 9 feet, click on recalibrate, and I'll click OK. And based on these measurements here, or these warehouse aisles or ceilings, what we can do is just start working with AirMagnet Survey Pro and come over here to Planner. And what we'll do is we'll just create, I guess, attenuation or density areas. So right now I'll just click over here, and what I'll do is I'll just create this as a, you know what, I'll give it a rectangle. Let me just delete those. Create a new one. And we'll put that as a warehouse high density. Create another one here, high density. And now we're going to do the middle aisles and the racks here. So what we're going to do is just come over to our drawing tool over here. We're going to create a rectangle attenuation area. So let's start over here, attenuation area. It's set to warehouse density high. And now we're going to start adding our access points. And the reason why I love AirMagnets is because of this feature. As long as you have the latest software or firmware and you have a gold membership plan with AirMagnet, they usually upgrade their antenna patterns and APs quite often. So let me just show you this. I'm going to place an AP here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on it. Sorry, let me just deselect that. Sorry, I deleted all of my settings, so we're just starting over here. So the reason why I love this piece of software is because this AP feature right now in AirMagnet. As long as you have the latest software, firmware, or you have a gold support contract, you can always upgrade AirMagnet and you'll see all of the AP profiles in here, antennas. So if you just click over here to create AP, click it once and just drag in your AP where you think that this AP is going to be going. So now what we're going to do is, now that that first AP is here, you just want to right click on it. So now what you want to do over here is you should want to double click on this or right click on it and go to AP properties. And this is what you can do, is you can give it, I like to call my APs bases, base 01. Now you can click on the AP model if it supports it. Click over right here. If you're working with 2.4, give it channels 1, 6, or 11. Right now I just leave it as default as channel 1 or 36. The MAC address I leave, don't worry about that, just because you're doing a predictive site survey. IP address, it doesn't matter. Now my transmit power is something that you want to take into consideration. Kind of know your access points, what you're working with. You know, call support and just ask them, you know, what's the default transmit power on a Meraki device that is running at, you know, X amount of watts. You know, if you want to say, okay, let's give it 50 milliwatts of power instead of 100, let's just say that's 50%. You can do that. And then the antenna type, here's the thing that I love about this, is you can come over here, and because we work with Cisco Meraki a lot, we're going to go over to Meraki right here, and we're going to select the MR33, which is a really popular access point. And then we're going to just leave everything here as default. Don't worry about that. You can see if you want to support 802.11n. And the beauty of this here is, because I work with a lot of logistics companies, manufacturing companies, so typically 90% of my time I'm in warehouse environments. So I'm going to set this over to typical 38 feet, you know, or let's say just 40 feet warehouse ceilings. And I'm just going to click default, just put default MR33 AP, 40 feet ceiling, and click OK. And now that's just going to give me my baseline access point. Now what I'm going to do is double click on it, and I'm going to set it as default AP. Now when I set it to default AP, what it's going to do is every time I drag another AP, it's going to inherit those settings that I set. 50 milliwatts, 40 foot ceiling, and all the rest of the parameters that I set. So I'm just going to, based on best effort and kind of as a guesstimate, what I'm going to do is say, I think based on my knowledge, I'm going to set an AP here in this area. I'll set another one here. I'll set another one here, 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 and here. And now what we can do, I'll pause this video. What we're going to do is we're going to refresh this list. Then it's going to generate a heat map of best placement, not the best placement, but the overall signal to noise ratio and RSSI value. So a heat map of displaying the signal around these areas. And I'll just show you this. I'm going to pause the video while this refreshes, and it'll probably take about 2 to 3 minutes. So now that it finished its analysis, now you can see actually the levels of signal that we have. Right now we're about -50 in most of these areas right here. So if you want to look at some of the gray areas, right now you're getting about -70, so non-existent Wi-Fi in these areas. Now these are just predictive values. Now like I mentioned, these are just predictive values, and what you can do again is you can come over here, and if you had some dead zones over here, just easily take an AP, because it's still set into default mode. Click over there and just click on your map again and just do a refresh. So now that we've added that AP, now you can see we get more coverage in the areas that we didn't get on the south side of this building. So now we're looking at just some dead zones that we have over here that are in the -70 to -100. So basically meaning this is non-existent Wi-Fi. So now you could just repeat the process of adding an AP and then click on refresh, but I'm not going to do that right now. So that's typically how you run a predictive site survey. I don't recommend just running a predictive site survey If you are going to be running a predictive site survey, I would always say work with me, get a spectrum analysis. I can either ship you one of my RF cards and we could do a remote analysis where I provide you the software. Sorry, you can just run around the warehouse with your laptop and my software, my license key, and we could look at signatures. You would send back the spectrum analyzer and RF card, and we can look at the analysis of what we captured just to see if there's any interference. And if there's no interference, then I would say this is fine in terms of doing a predictive site survey, but like I mentioned, we always recommend an on-site site survey just to look at the real values and how everything propagates within your warehouse, because you might not need 14 APs, you might need only 10, but if price isn't too much of a concern, then 14 is fine. You could always work with your controller and setting your dB levels a little bit lower, a little bit higher, or going with a different approach of having more APs, smaller cell coverages, hence putting your AP transmit power lower and just having more of a redundant AP fashion in your warehouse. So if you like this video, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe below. Thanks.